Welcome. So I'm gonna give everybody about 2, 3 minutes to get in, and we're gonna jump right into this conversation. We have a lot to discuss and talk about tonight. If you don't already have paper and pencil, I'd encourage you to go ahead and get that. I sent a preview, a checklist. The stuff that we're going to be going over, it comes from a checklist that I sent prior in an email. If you don't have that checklist, uh, I'll have a link below the video somewhere for you to download the checklist. It's basically a 12-month step-by-step guide on all the stuff you need to do to prepare for a move abroad. I didn't have a lot of this stuff. I didn't know a lot of this stuff. And since being here now, after this recording, almost 2 years in Mexico, I've learned a lot, not only for myself, but from other people as well. Some of the mistakes and they made, some of the good stuff that people have done and they shared. So we're going to be talking about all of that. So if you're planning a move, this is it. So one more minute and we're going to start. I've disabled the chat function. So somewhere below you will see a comments box, and post your questions there, and we'll try and answer those best we can. Because I want to kind of speed through this because this can take hours. So I am long-winded by nature, so I'm gonna try and minimize that. We want to cover some important stuff here because, man, this is an exciting time. A lot of folks, I'm gonna save it for the webinar. So about 30 more seconds, we're gonna start. Get your paper, get your pencil, get your beverages, get your coffee, get everything you need. Quiet the kids up. I'm gonna make a replay of this so that it can be watched at your leisure as well, in case you got to go. So I'm excited, man. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So this topic here, break all the rules and move abroad this year. This is something that you really can do, but it's going to require planning and preparation. And this really is nothing new. Our goal here at Move Abroad and Thrive is simple: one mission, to help you move abroad and thrive. That's the mission. Because as I just said a moment ago, you really can do this. This is nothing new. There are over 8.7 million Americans, and I'm talking primarily Americans because I'm from the United States, North America, United States. And most of my audience is from the United States, but there are 8.7 million Americans living abroad in over 160 countries. 27% of all U.S. expats live in Mexico, making Mexico the #1 place for folks from the United States to be living. And as much as they talk about Mexico and the United States, it amazes me that the bulk of the expats that are choosing to live all over the world, most of them are living right here, which is where I'm at after this recording. I'm in Mexico, been here almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in June, and I am loving it. Mexico was so far off my mind, was not on my list of places, didn't even have it on my list to visit. That's how brainwashed I was as it relates to living in Mexico. It wasn't even on my radar. And yet we right next door. So our goal here is to show you how to make this possible. I'm going to share stories. A mom that I recently met, helped her find a place, recently moved here with 4 children. She's 30 years old, have 4 kids, ages 2, 3, 5, and 9. I believe those ages, 2, 3, 5, and 9. Four children. And she was like, Cortez, I had to get it right. I got this big income tax check and I needed to do right with that money. I didn't want to blow it like I've done with previous monies I've had. This was a great opportunity for me to start over. She found a remote job, and so she starts this week. She arrived last week, found her a place. 2 days later, she was moving in by day 3. She started a job on Monday. And I'm just so ecstatic and happy. I hope to be interviewing her soon so y'all can hear her story. So, and then there's other people that are moving here, not just because of money. They want adventure. They want to travel. They want to see things. They want to experience new cultures. So whatever your reason is, we got you covered. So let's hop into this because again, I want you to know that this is possible. This is real and you can do this. But it's important that you plan your move and do all the research. You can't shortcut this process. So that's why this thing here is basically like a 12-month process for those of you all to kind of walk you through this process. Now, some folks have gotten here much quicker. Of course, it didn't take us 12 months, and some folks did move faster, but this is the overall broad view on the necessary steps you need to do to make this a smooth transition and make your life easier. So I got this broken down into sections: 12 months before you depart, 6 to 9 months before you depart, 3 to 6 months, and then 1 to 3 months. So we're going to kind of break it all down. So if you're about 1 year out and you're ready to do this thing, you need to understand and determine what your goals and priorities are for moving or retiring abroad or overseas. Again, as I mentioned earlier, some people are looking for lower cost of living. Some folks, it's not about the money. They just simply want to be in a place where the weather is great all year round, because some folks live up in the north or some folks live up in Canada and it gets cold. They're tired of the winter months, the cold weather or rainy seasons, or folks just simply want a different lifestyle. You got to understand what you're looking for and what your motivations are. Because there is a country for you based on what you're needing. Some folks might simply, hey, I'm looking for adventure. I'm a surfer. I love to surf. That's a passion of mine. Guess what? There are countries that you can go to, places that you can live where the waves are great, where the waves are active, and you can do that. If you want to live, if you like hiking or exploring up in the mountains and all of that stuff, there are countries out there that will meet your need or fit what your lifestyle is all about. If you're looking for a place just to explore or just be in a small knit community, quiet, and get to know folks, get to know the locals, get to know the local culture, there is a country there for you. So it's important that you research different destinations that meet your criteria. You might hear some noise outside. There's a car driving with a loudspeaker announcing what they're selling. That's Mexico. Mexico is a loud place. And at any given time, you can hear stuff like that. So I don't know if you heard that, but it was distracting to me. So again, research different destinations. And this could take you some weeks and this could take you some months. But write down your goals, write down what your priorities are. For me, my priorities were saving money, keeping my costs very low, without sacrificing my quality of life. I still wanted to go out and eat. So places where, been in a country where I can go out and eat restaurants, very affordable, that was high on my list. Going to places where the rent was significantly less than what I was paying in the United States, that was high on the list. Also, I wanted to be in a place where we can travel to other places within the same country and explore as well. So that was on my list. Um, so if healthcare is important for you, you need to make sure you do the research. If so again, know what your priorities are, know what your goals are. Also, create a budget and a financial plan for your move. This should include the cost of living in the country that you're choosing. Learn and understand what the tax ramifications are for taxes. Again, investigate the healthcare and also figure out what other costs or expenses can be. One of the things you can do is join local Facebook groups in the country that you're looking to go to. So, for example, there are Facebook groups for foreigners or expats that want to live in, say, Colombia or live in Mexico or live in Thailand. You can join these Facebook groups and talk to people that are actively and already living there in the country. You can get an idea of what rent costs in that area. You can get an idea. You can ask questions about how the healthcare system work, what type of insurances are available, what one could expect to pay to see the doctor, or how much one can expect to pay for utilities. So again, you just need to look at your current budget. I'm assuming you have one, and then go down that list and join these groups and go in and post and ask questions and get real time feedback or real time data from folks that are actively on the ground. It's important you do this, particularly if your primary goal is to cut costs and expenses so you can get an idea of what it will cost for you to live abroad. A lot of folks are retiring, and when they retire, they take a pay cut because they're not working full time anymore. So they're not getting a full check. So there's generally a cut in pay on that retirement check. So you need to make sure wherever you're going, you'll still be able to maintain a comfortable lifestyle that works within your budget. Start researching visa requirements and regulations for your destination country. So determine if you need a visa, and if so, what type of visa you will need. Some countries require proof of income or a certain amount of savings to obtain a visa. So when I first came to Mexico, they had this thing, what they call technically, quote unquote, tourist visa, which with an American passport, you got pretty much 6 months. Now, getting 6 months, a guaranteed 6 months, is not a guarantee anymore. Depending on where you're coming in at, they might only stamp your visitor's visa for 30 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. You just don't know. So again, it's very important you investigate these things. Immigrations can change the rules at any time, but if you're coming to live and if you're planning to live, do the research on the type of visas and the requirements that are necessary to live long term in a particular country. The last thing you want to do is becoming somewhere. And so, for example, in Mexico, if they give you 6 months, and when your 6 months expire or before it expires, you have to hop on a plane, fly out the country, then come back. And you don't want to be doing that every 6 months. And technically, it's not legal. And I'm gonna tell you something that most folk don't tell you. Them 6 months come by fast. Before you know it, them 6 months is here. And if you got a family of 4 or 5, or like this young lady, she got 4 boys. I mean, that's five family members. You got to load up on the plane. That means you have to buy 5 plane tickets, fly up out of here, land somewhere, stay there for a couple of days in hotel and food, and then get 5 plane tickets back. It ain't cheap. And again, that time flies by quick. I know some folks say, well, you can drive across the border. Well, even a lot of these border towns, they've gotten hipped. And when you come back across the border, they may only give you 7 days. So there's no guarantee. So again, investigate the various options that will allow you to stay here long term. I found myself when we first got here, it was never the plan or our intentions to move to Mexico. And so I didn't do the necessary research and paperwork to find, to get a long-term visa. So when my stuff expired, I had to go get an extension. That cost money. I had to pay for each of us. We had to go to a town that was 2 hours away. Then it was during the Christmas break. So they shut down early. So they was like, well, we can't get to you today. So we're just going to put you in the system and then you got to come back. We had to drive back to that place 4 times. That means we had to rent a car or pay a driver multiple times. I think we rented a car twice and paid the driver. No, we rented a car 3 times and then paid the driver to take us the fourth time. That was expensive. You know what I mean? And then the time that it took, 2.5 hour drive there, 2.5 hour drive back after standing up there immigration all day. So you have no control. And then those 6 months expired. And so it was just a big old mess, but we got it worked out. And we're got a 4-year temporary visa under a special program that they have here in Mexico, primarily due to the pandemic. And so I don't have to worry about that for 4 years. And then after those 4 years, I'll roll into permanent residency automatically. So do your research, save yourself the headache, because you will spend unnecessary amounts of money if you don't have the proper paperwork to stay in the country. Also, 12 months before departure, start decluttering your possessions, start selling your stuff. The stuff that you won't be taking with you, start, if you're not, if you don't even have to sell it that far out. But if you know for certain that you're going to be leaving, at least start segregating stuff off and putting it to the side, and what you're going to keep, what you're not going to keep, what's going in storage, what you're selling, what you're throwing away. For us, it was simple. If we didn't put our hands on it in the last 12 months, it was gone. And what we quickly realized was that a lot of the stuff in the boxes that we had packed up in the basement, it was stuff from 15 years ago. We were literally just carrying stuff, dragging stuff from place to place to place because we didn't get rid of it. It just started building up stuff that was in boxes from 15 years earlier. Crazy. You know what I mean? Just dragging stuff. And so it was stressful getting rid of it. But once we got rid of it, it was like a big relief, a big load was off of us. Now we're able to go about, we're no longer restrained or trapped or stuck to stuff. We released it. So now we live more of a minimalistic lifestyle, which allows us the opportunity to bounce around and go with much more ease. We're not bound to the things, it's to the stuff. So start planning that. This can be painful for many people. And so maybe perhaps the sooner you get going, the better. Start learning the language. Consider taking courses online. I know a lot of folks suggest using the language learning apps. If you don't know anything about the language, that would be a great start. Learn how to count. Learn how to say the basic phrases. Learn what the basic customs are. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Learn the basic ways to say hello, bye, how to ask for help. Learn your numbers so you know how to count your money. Once again, thanks to the pandemic, there's a lot to be grateful for that pandemic. I know there's a lot of bad memories and not so good things that happened, but there was also a lot of good things that did come about. And one of the big things that have changed is the opportunity for people to do more stuff remotely online, and learning Spanish online, or learning how to speak Japanese, or speaking German or French. You can sign up with a local teacher in that country and learn from a local. And I can't tell you how valuable that would be. My advice, start learning, taking some online Zoom classes from these locals. There's some things that an app can't do, and an app can't correct you. An app don't talk slang. An app don't necessarily say it the way they say it in that local town. So, for example, here I'm in Merida. They speak a little different here than they would in, say, Mexico City. So if I'm in Merida, then or I'm going to be living there, it's best for me to learn Spanish from someone, perhaps say in Merida. Now there are some other folks, and that doesn't have to be specific. You don't have to get that tight. But even someone from Mexico City would still be ideal and good enough uh, to learn Spanish if you were, say, moving to this area. But they can teach you, they can correct you, they can tell you how to enunciate certain letters and sounds. Because again, if you don't pronounce these words and enunciate these syllables just right, they won't know what you're saying. There's a Coca-Cola that they have here. They don't call it Diet Coke. They just say Coke, Coca-Cola, sin azúcar. And sin is spelled S-I-N. So most people, when they see it, they'll say sin. And there's a difference when you say sin versus seen. They might not know what you're saying, especially in places like Colombia. You off by one sound, it throws the whole word off, and they looking at you like you crazy. Then you thinking, man, you know what I said. I said sin. No, you said, no, but you should have said seen. They don't know. Sin azúcar means no sugar. Coke with no sugar. Coca sin azúcar. You know what I mean? So learning and talking to a tutor online who's correcting you and talking to you in real time, your ear starts to get trained. You start to hear how they really sound. I'm gonna tell you something. Whatever you learn on them damn apps, once you're behind land on the ground in said country, and they start talking to you, everything you thought you knew and thought you understood, you won't understand a single thing they saying, because it ain't nowhere near like the app. They speaking 100 times faster than the app. They talking so fast, and this is no exaggeration. They're talking 100 miles an hour. That app might be talking about hola, mi nombre es. No, he's over there. Hola, mi nombre es. I'm like, what did he just say? Hola, mi nombre. And they be going 100 miles an hour. So learning this 12 months in advance and talking to a local 12 months in advance is going to make it a much more smoother, easier transition for you before you arrive. So again, these are just tips to start preparing for this journey that you know you're going to be taking. Another thing you want to do is start investigating the healthcare options in the country that you intend to live. Determine if you will need to purchase health insurance or if you'll be eligible for government provided insurance. And again, a lot of this is related to the type of visa that you get. Depending on the type of residency visa that you have, there's certain perks and benefits that come along with that, healthcare being one of them. So it's important that you, once again, do the research, hop in these Facebook groups, ask questions, call, get recommendations from people in the groups on agents who they recommend, or agents where they bought their insurance from, and start talking to the health insurance agent in that country. Many of them will speak. They speak multiple languages. So if you speak English, there's generally someone there who speaks English in that country, and start getting actual quotes from them. Don't necessarily rely on what you see and read inside of the Facebook groups, but get some recommendations for agents, and then call these agents yourself and get on the phone and find out what your options are. Go straight to the source. You will eliminate a lot of confusion because everybody will have an opinion. There's no better person to give you a quote and accurate information more than the agent. So start this process now to see what it costs. Call the hospital to find out if the hospitals accept this particular insurance, that type of health care. So again, these are just tips to know. And that's another reason why it's important to do the research on your residency options, get your residency, because that opens you up to other types of insurance that you won't have as a foreigner or the visitor visiting the country. Also, start researching housing options in the country that you are planning to live. Determine if you're going to rent, determine if you're going to buy, determine what type of property you're looking for, whether you're looking for apartments, condos, houses. In many places like Colombia, people living in houses is really not a big thing. Most folks lived in condos and apartments. So investigate. Mexico seems to be the opposite. The vast majority of folks tend to live in houses, although many do live in apartments, but the overwhelming majority live in houses, just like in Colombia. The overwhelming majority of folks lived in condos and apartments, particularly foreigners and immigrants and expats and stuff like that. So join the Facebook groups, check out Facebook Marketplace, do a local search to get an idea of how much a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house or apartment goes for. Compare it with apartments, compare it with condos, townhouses. Investigate what the options are, again, because you need these numbers for your budget. You can ask for advice or recommendations on areas to live in inside of these different Facebook groups, and then hop in there and start digging around and see for yourself how much the properties are renting for or what they're selling for. Also find recommendations from real estate agents. Find those in the groups. Ask people who they use, who built your house, who did you buy your house through, what agent did you use, who do you recommend. A lot of this stuff will keep you out of trouble and keep you from getting yourself caught up in a scam or two. Listen, if you do the work, do the research, a lot of this anxiety that many people have about living in a foreign country, it goes away as you start getting this information and you start getting this data, because now you're starting to learn and know for yourself. And a lot of that frustration and anxiety goes away when you start getting the data. So lack of data, lack of information, typically a lack of clarification tends to cause a lot of unnecessary fear, anxiety, stress, and frustration. So do the work, do the research. Also, another thing you want to do is consider opening up a bank account. It might make things much easier for managing your finances once you move. Some places may require you to be in country in order to get a local bank account. Some you may be able to do that online. If you're particularly going to be buying property, you might want to definitely consider getting a local bank. And again, talking to other folks that are already on the ground, posting these questions in different groups, and finding out what other folks have done. So do the work. Do the work. There are some advantages to having a local bank account, particularly so you can get a local debit card or a local bank card or credit card, because when you're paying for some services, your U.S. credit card or debit card may not work when you go online to put payment information in, because it's not a national bank account. It's not it's not a national credit card or a national debit card. So if I'm trying to pay my cell phone bill, most of the time, all the time, my credit card wouldn't work online. It needed to be a Mexican bank card or debit card or credit card. So there's some benefits to that. So for example, signing up for services like Netflix or Spotify, if I'm in Mexico, the computer recognizes I'm in Mexico, and so the plans are much cheaper. Netflix is cheaper, Spotify is cheaper, but when I go, so it'll present me with the cheaper plan because it's showing that I'm in Mexico. But when I go and put in my US credit card or debit card, it recognizes, they're like, wait a minute, this is a US credit card or debit card, and the charge is declined. And it's not because I didn't notify my bank. They decline it because it's not a national debit or credit card from this country where I'm at. So you missed out on those savings. You see what I'm saying? So it might be some advantages. So at least if you're visiting the country while you're out here doing an exploratory trip, open up a bank account while you're here. Some places are a little more lenient on allowing you to get a bank card or bank account. Research job opportunities. If you plan to work while living abroad, do the research. Some countries, depending on your skill sets, they will hire you. They will sponsor you with a work visa. Traditionally, without a work visa, without being sponsored, you cannot work in the other country that you intend to immigrate to. So unless you have a work visa, unless somebody is sponsoring you. But do the research. If you're one of those career fields where there's a shortage and they consider it critical, you can get a job. And that's another way to generate income while here. I don't know how well you will get paid, but again, depending on the country you're in, you might earn more money in certain places than you would in other places. But do the research. And this is why you're doing this 12 months out. So as time get closer to a year out, you already got all this stuff. This is not stuff you want to be doing when you're 30 days away. Consult with a tax professional to determine what your tax obligations are and how to file taxes in both your home country or destination country. So this made a lot of folks come here and they buy property to invest as real estate investments. So again, I don't know what your particular goals are, but you might want to consult with a tax pro if you're going to be doing stuff like that and other stuff. Will they tax your retirement income? Again, the best person to ask is a tax advisor, which I'm not. Join these Facebook groups, get feedback from folks about what their tax obligations are in said country. Ask them who are they using for help with their taxes and get these recommendations, and then schedule an appointment or consult to talk to these tax professionals that can help you. Again, don't go on hearsay. I want to stress that. Get the information from the people. Yes, reach out to get recommendations on what other people are using, and then call those people directly, the tax professionals directly, and talk to them. You don't want secondhand information. You can eliminate a lot of the headache by going straight to the source. This is a big one. Make a list of a checklist of all the important documents you will need to bring with you, because it'll cost you a whole lot of money trying to have this stuff overnighted to you when you realize you need it. So things like, your passports, you're definitely going to need that. If you don't have copies of your birth certificates, go ahead and order that. If you don't have copies of your marriage certificates, go ahead and order that. It's better to have this stuff with you than to have to need it later on. Apostille. Let me make sure I'm saying that word right. Some of your documents will need that. Apostille. Hold on one second. So there is this word. Now my phone is showing up in Spanish.
Apostille.
Apostille is an extra step that you have to go through. So like, for instance, they might want your birth certificate to have an apostille on it, meaning that, and this is generally what happens when you're dealing with foreign countries. The document have to be certified by another, and I'm gonna write the definition out underneath the video so you know what I'm gonna jack it all up. But an apostille is another government agency is verifying that your birth certificate is real and legit. It's verifying that your marriage license or certificate is legit. And you're gonna want all of that, and you're gonna need those documents, particularly um, depending on the type of residency that you're doing. Some of them may require you to have your documents translated and certified and all of this stuff. So if you can get all this stuff done before you leave, because a lot of folks here, they're trying to get their residency here in Mexico. Now they're having to request their kids' birth certificates, and it needs that apostille on it as well. And it's a big old mess. And it's just, and some folks are having to get on the plane and fly back home to get it. So under the description here, I'm gonna list a list of documents that you just need to have on hand and just bring with you and have, so you can save yourself a whole lot of headache. Because some of these documents require you to actually go into the office and get it, and that could be a big old mess. So all types of documents, for marriage documents, um, everything. So I'm gonna list all of that because I don't have it all listed right here on the screen. Research shipping options for your belongings. I don't know if you're planning to ship your stuff abroad, but do your research. Go into Facebook groups, talk to other people, find out what companies they use to move and transport their stuff. Some places, this is why it's important to do your research. Some places, it doesn't even make sense to have your stuff shipped or brought over. Our area where we're at it's a very humid area. We got a lot of heat. It's a tropical area, and a lot of the furniture from the States just won't do well here because of the high levels of humidity. Maybe better just to buy furniture when you get here. Other places may not be a problem. The biggest thing that you're going to be dealing with is the cost to transport your stuff abroad. But again, this is why it's important to do the research, find out from others, call, get quotes, and get the specifics directly from the source. So you can keep hearing me talk about that. So now we're down to the 6. So all of that was done for 12 months out. While you're 12, 11, 10 months out, you're investigating all this stuff. You're keeping notes and keeping track of everything, because this time is going to start winding down. And a lot of this stuff you're going to revisit 3 months later. So let's start that stuff early. So 6 to 9 months in, start applying for necessary visas. I've seen so many people applying for visas last minute, right before it's time to go. They're having to cancel plane flights. They're having to reschedule everything. They get here, then they have to go back. Start doing this stuff early. That way, if you run into any problem, you got time on your hand. You got time on your side. So that's why 3 months ago in the 12-month section, you started doing the research to find out what the requirements are for a particular visa. Now it's time to start applying. Every country is different. Do the research. The sooner you get this done, the better. Consider using a relocation service to help with the moving process and settling into your country. Again, hop in these Facebook groups, ask questions, get advice. I know a lot of folks are like, well, I'm a well-versed traveler. I've been around the block a time or two. I can do this on my own. If that's you, wonderful. If this is, for many of you, this is your first move abroad, you might want a little extra hand holding, might want a little extra help. Reach out to folks that offer the service, pay the money. It helps you in the long run and the short run. Make sure you don't get ripped off or taken advantage by folks, because I'll tell you this, most of the folks that are doing the scamming tend to be other expats or other foreigners. So shop around, get feedback, talk to other people, find out who they use to help them kind of settle in and whatnot. So just be mindful. It doesn't hurt. I've used some folks to help me when I first went to Colombia for my first time. Once I got off that plane, I wanted to know that I can talk to somebody. I can call somebody if I got myself in the bind. So I was paying for assistance before I got to Colombia. I was paying consultation fees because I wanted this person's phone number. I wanted somebody I could call. I wanted somebody I could talk to. I wanted somebody that can help me if I got in the bind. So I found 2-3 folks that I did consultation with. So that way, if something happened, I could reach out to them. I had a contact on the ground. I just wanted my own peace of mind. And you got to do what's right for you. Don't listen to what everybody else tell you about what you should or shouldn't do. Or you don't need to pay anybody. You can figure it out on your own. No, do what works for you. Some folks can afford a premium service. Pay for it if it makes you comfortable. If you plan to rent a property, start contacting landlords or property managers to inquire about available properties. Again, find out from folks locally what methods are used to find property. I know in Mexico, real estate agents technically really ain't a thing. There's no licensing or governing body that regulate what they do. Most of the folks here that call themselves agents work full-time jobs. Most of them don't take the job seriously. You reach out to these agents, half of them won't even call you back. They'll leave you hanging, which is one of the reasons why I don't refer or recommend real estate agents, because at some point they gonna disappoint. They all disappoint, unfortunately. So do your homework, do your work, look online, stay in a hotel temporarily while you shop the local market. You definitely want to get out and visit the place or the town before you leave. Make a plan for selling or transferring ownership of any assets or property you own in your country. So if you got a house that you're wanting to get out of, start thinking this through. Start getting the house ready. Prep. Hire a home inspector to come in and check the house to find out what all need to be repaired and what needs to be fixed. So that way the house is in the best condition for selling it to the next person. The last thing you want them to do is hire their own inspector and they come and find out all these issues that could have been resolved by you. And now you're having to reduce the cost of the house, or you're having to come out of pocket and repair at the last minute, taking money out of the budget that you had already set for something else. Now you're having to pull money out to fix it. So start thinking this through at this stage. So when it's time to start the sale, you got everything ready. And these are real things. This is stuff and feedback that I've gotten from other folks that have done this and took their time to get it right. 6 to 9 months in, consider taking a trip to your destination country to scout out housing options and to get a feel for the area. You gotta get out there and see for yourself. You gotta see what's up. This young lady I told y'all about in the beginning with her 4 children had never been outside of the United States. She flew in sight unseen, and she was like, Cortez, I'm gonna get you to help me find a place. I'm just gonna take you at your word. I'm gonna trust your wisdom. And we found a place. She was ecstatic. And I'm gonna be sharing this video because we found her place for, I think, what was the number of 5,300 pesos a month, which at today's exchange rate, I'm gonna give you the price because the US dollar jacked up and peso strong, so we ain't getting what we used to get. So we found her place for 5,300 pesos, which as of today is $292 a month, semi-furnished, and it includes the internet, trash pickup, and water. So all she got to do is pay an electric bill, a fairly new home apartment, um, got her own private gate where she come in through, open it up, lock it up, go into the gate. Awesome. $292.59 per month, US dollars. So I recommend for most folk, come check the place out. For her, it was like, I'm here regardless. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna sit tight. We're gonna start over. I'm gonna get my kids in school. They gonna learn some Spanish fluently, and I'm gonna get I'm gonna get my life together, and we gonna thrive. That's exactly what she's doing. Continuing decluttering your possessions and packing items you will be taking with you. Again, go through that stuff that you already started segregating out. Maybe it's time to start selling some of the stuff, trashing some of the stuff, giving away some of the stuff. It's the time to start doing it. Because again, this time it's gonna go by quick. So now we're down to the 3 to 6 months before departure. This is the time when you want to start processing the cancellation. Begin the process of canceling or transferring any utilities, subscriptions, or memberships in your home country. When you start going over your bank statements and looking over your bills, and you start to realize, man, I'm paying a lot of folks a lot of money, these little bitty charges. Start going through that. Start canceling stuff off, start planning to shut them down, start getting current on them. So, I don't know if some of you might have to pay deposits on certain bills or utilities, start winding down, start paying that stuff off so your bills are current so you can get your deposits back. Start winding down your bank accounts, your direct deposits, make sure everything is going to the right place. Start moving things around, start consolidating your bank accounts. If you have 5 bank accounts, you might want to consolidate down to 2 or 3 and get all this stuff together. So start working on that. Start working on that. Start investigating whether or not your bank is going to charge you international fees for every transaction. For example, Wachovia, I think, if I recall, every time my wife makes a swipe on her card at the store, there's a small international transaction fee. I've been trying to tell her to get rid of that bank, but I've been with them my whole life. They ain't paying them jokers all that money. That's 2 years of transactions almost that you just giving away. Some banks, there's no international transaction fees. There's no ATM withdrawal fees. So start investigating those banks so you can get your stuff, so that when you're down here making withdrawals or making transactions at the restaurants, you're not paying extra money. Investigate. Start arranging for the shipment of your belongings to your destination. It can take 3 months for your stuff to get to wherever it's going. It takes 4 months. So that's why I say earlier on, start talking to them folks earlier on so you already know who you're going to be dealing with. And if you are going to be shipping your stuff, it's time to start loading that stuff up, because it's going to take about that time to get there. And hopefully you've already been down to the place where you're going to go, so you know where to have the stuff stored. Research. Continue applying for your visas and gathering all required documentation. You're just going to keep moving along. Some of this stuff you're going to be revisiting, as we discussed in the previous slides. Research and purchase health insurance in your destination country if necessary. Do the research. Call the hospitals. Find out what insurance policies are accepted, what ain't. Find out what your options are. Did you get your residency? Do you have it already? Can you start applying for health insurance in that country? Can you apply for car insurance in that country? Some places, if you're going to be driving your car down, say from the United States to Mexico, you're going to need Mexican insurance in Mexico. Your insurance ain't going to work well down here. So apply, and yes, you can get Mexican insurance. And you want to have that before you drive across that border. You don't want them problems. You get down here in Mexico and have an accident and you don't have a proper insurance, you're going to jail. So 3 to 6. All right. So next, start making arrangements for any pets you plan to bring with you. This is a big one. You want to have to this here, jump on the Facebook groups in the country that you're going to, post your question. Before you post your question, do the research, do the search function inside of the group and find out what other people have done in the past about having their pets transported. If you can't find the answer, then of course, post your question in the group and get feedback from other folks because each airline works different. Some places require shots and vaccinations of up-to-date records with your pets. Some breeds won't be accepted. Some airlines might not fly because of weight. A lot of this stuff you want to know. I've met folks who driven their dogs or had to pay somebody that drive their dogs across the border and bring them here. So 3 to 6 months in, this is something you want to start looking at and investigating what your options are. Making room for your pets. Knowing this sooner than later helps you out. Notify your bank and credit card companies of your move to ensure uninterrupted access to your funds. Surprisingly, some banks will give you a lot more harder time using your payment options, your credit card, the debit cards. For example, I know a lot of folks have come down here thinking they can use their Stripe card. It don't work in Mexico. Stripe only works in the States, and I think in that one other place. But Stripe debit card or Stripe card will not work in Mexico. Technically, you can't use Cash App. Well, I'm saying Stripe. I mean Cash App. Cash App don't work out here. Can't use the card. You know what I mean? So if that's why I say investigate, call your bank, find out if it's going to be a problem for you to use your money, use your debit card, use your bank card, find out if they have problems with you transferring your money from your U.S. bank account into your Mexico account. So for example, if you're trying to make a big purchase and you think you're going to be buying a home and you're now currently in Mexico living, some of these banks that I've heard would not allow folks to make wire transfers from in Mexico. So some folks had to hop on a plane, fly back to their country, go to their bank, and then initiate a wire transfer from there. That's too much work. So find this out before you leave. So if you need to get another bank, you can get another bank. Recommended bank that folks tend to talk about a lot here is Chase. So investigate what your options are. Again, talk to the folks in the Facebook groups. The folks in these Facebook groups can provide you with a lot of information. Start saying goodbye to family and friends and making arrangements to stay in touch. Again, you can start telling everybody you're leaving if you want to. Depending on your family members, it might not be available to tell them nothing until about 5 days before it's time to go. Because they'll try and talk you out of it. So now we're down to 1 to 3 months before departure. And this is getting real about this time. This is about the time folks start getting nervous. They start getting shook. They start getting paranoid. And they like, man, am I making the right decision? Or I think I made a mistake because now you done sold your house, probably. You done gave up your car. You done told your boss you ain't coming back. So, hey, it starts getting real right now. So again, finalize all your visa applications and paperwork. Ensure you have all necessary documentation. Depending on the visa process, you'll start one part in your home country, and then you'll complete the visa process when you arrive in the new country. So you want to make sure you have all your documents before you get there. Review those requirements carefully so you know without a shadow of a doubt that you covered. Confirm your shipping arrangements and make sure all items are properly packaged and labeled, packed and labeled. So again, just going back over, verifying the stuff that you've already done the research for. If you still got stuff left over, it's time to start selling it. We rented one of those big giant dumpsters that they bring to your house. They dropped it off in our driveway in our front yard. And what we had left over, we just started throwing it in there. Boom, boom, boom. It was like a 20-foot long trash can by 8 feet wide by 8 feet tall. We just throwing stuff in that thing. Instead of making all them trips to the dumpster. They bring that dumpster, they throw everything in there, fill it up, and they come and haul it all off. Make final arrangements for your housing. Make sure you know your new place. You know where you're gonna be staying. If you're gonna be staying in Airbnb for a month while you look for permanent living arrangements or long-term living arrangements, just know what those plans are. And absolutely make sure you obtain necessary vaccinations. Some countries will require certain vaccinations, others won't, but do the research. This can be a fun and exciting time, but you got to put in the work and do the research. So that's that. Like I say, this is an exciting time. This is real. You can do this. You don't have to struggle. You can live your life. You can go out there and live and have an adventure. Remote work makes this a possibility for many, many, many people. You may have to change jobs, but I met a lady who was just stressed out about her job. It was driving her crazy. She was like, I can't work any longer. And she made good money. And so my thing was to get you a remote job. You can find remote work online for $15 an hour, which goes a long way in places like Mexico, Colombia, Vietnam, Thailand. Um, and, you can live very well on $15 an hour. So remote work has opened up the opportunity for many of you to be able to do this. You can do this. It opened up a whole nother opportunity. And I'd encourage you, if this is something that you've been thinking about, you can actually go to a place and actually afford to have a life. You can afford to live, afford to do things. Me, my buddy Robert, and another guy named Evan, we met up downtown today in Central, or we're eating tacos and eating nachos and sipping on sodas. And we were down there for a couple of hours, just sitting there, shooting the breeze, talking and laughing and just commenting on, like, wow, can y'all believe we really are just sitting here in Mexico, enjoying ourselves, having the time of our life, and the stress, that monkey is off of your back. It's a real feeling. And you can get that monkey off of your back by relocating somewhere. In our case, where the cost of living is drastically reduced. You don't have to make as much money as you are in the States. If you're on a retirement income or fixed income, you can get by quite well on that income. Like the young lady, when your rent is $292 a month, that includes your water bill, your trash bill, and your high-speed internet. I mean, come on, how much money do you really have to make with 4 boys? You know what I mean? 4 kids. So her lifestyle is about to change overnight. Once she landed, she ordered some pizza one day. What did we ordered a bunch of tacos, and the bill was, she was like, oh my God, that's all? Kid can eat good. We took her to the grocery store. She was like, man, Cartier, this would have cost me over $100 in the States. And here, I think she spent like $27 for the stuff. She was like, I wouldn't be able to get out the store for less than 100 for the same stuff. This is real. It's real. So check this out. We have a membership site, moveabroadandthrive.com/VIP. We have a members portal where you're able to go in, ask questions, um, get feedback from me, because we offer a telephone consultation. But as a member, you can post your stuff in the group and get your questions answered. Um, get resources, find out what attorneys I use, say for instance in Merida. Other members will, if you try to visit some place like Africa, or different parts of Africa, we have members there that can share resources about stuff there, and we're growing. It's a fairly new platform. We're growing, but the goal here is to have folks off from all over the world sharing their resources inside of our portal, so you can get feedback. And this site is not just about Mexico. It's about wherever country you want to be in. You can come in here, you can create groups. So if you live in Costa Rica, you can come in here and create a Costa Rica group and share your experience and journeys and resources about life in Costa Rica so other folk can learn about Costa Rica. I got information about hotels I recommend here in Merida. Um, Again, really, you can ask questions. I just interviewed a guy who bought 2 houses here in Mexico. He answers all the questions about what you need to do to buy a house and all of that stuff. So you'll get access to exclusive interviews. A lot of these folks that I interview, for example, a couple of folks have driven their cars down here. They share some information, but I'm going to be hosting live interviews with them as well, where you'll be able to come on the live and ask them specific questions about buying a house, about driving down to Mexico, getting driver's license, getting insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that is part of the group membership. VIP membership is very affordable. Go to this link here, moveabroadandthrive.com/VIP. I have a link underneath the video, and check that out. Also, if you need to book a consultation, you want to talk to me directly, I have a few options there that make it affordable for you. We also have courses if you're looking for remote work and trying to find a job so that you can make this move. I have a simple course. Folks that follow the details and the content there are finding remote work jobs in as little as 7 days. They can $12 an hour, $15 an hour, and as high as $21 an hour. So again, it can change your life. We also have a course for the Move Abroad and Thrive Academy. You can sign up for that, and it's a much more in-depth program showing you and breaking down the process of moving abroad, and so that you can thrive. Also, finding rentals in Mexico, there's a course on that. As always, if you found our content is helping you plan your move abroad, consider making a donation to Cash App, $Cartez Ross. You can also send a donation to Zelle, Cartez@CartezRoss.com. Also, if you want to do payment by way of credit card, go to moveabroadandthrive.com. You'll see a link at the top that says donate. If you're on your mobile device, you'll see that little hamburger menu. Click that to expand it, and you'll see the donate link there. Click on that. Make a donation. All contributions help. It all matters. I appreciate it. And so if you enjoyed this content, understand that there's going to be a lot more coming, and you will have access to all of that only on the member side of the site. I won't be posting as much stuff to YouTube or Facebook as I have in the past. I'm saving it all for my members. So get signed up, moveabroadandthrive.com/VIP. My name, no, my name is Cartez Ross. You gonna say something crazy? That's for another topic, child. See, thank y'all for watching. Have a wonderful day. What are you making on you?